Sources tell us that Trump-Manafort meeting lasted for hours, and it comes amid a clamor from state-based Trump operatives who were pleading with Trump to create a more cohesive and coherent national campaign structure. DeMarco, what Trump is going to have to decide now is how to split the roles of Manafort and his effective and loyal, but sometimes very volatile campaign manager, Corey Lewandowski.
Yeah, and Major, there seems to be a lot of concern about Lewandowski's experience and his ability to run a campaign, especially when the stakes are higher. Could we see changes at the top? What do you think?
I think we will see changes. I've been on the phone with many people within the Trump organization today, and they're of two minds. No one wants to take away from Corey Lewandowski what has been accomplished so far. Let's remind ourselves, Trump won New Hampshire, South Carolina, Florida, Georgia, North Carolina, Missouri, Illinois. Those are all huge states with enormous implications for a delegate fight on the floor of a contested convention, and they speak to the success of the Trump campaign. Corey did a good deal of that, and yet there's a great sense among those who want to see Trump do well that this campaign needs a serious operative at the top who can look at the big picture and impose a budget, discipline on messaging and travel, and create kind of a calmness. The one thing about Corey Lewandowski, and I've gotten to know him well, he's got tremendous energy. He's got a frenetic energy about him, really, but he's also Trump's body man. He's right with Trump everywhere they go. You can't be all things at all times. You can't be the guy who's the candidate's body man, answering the cell phone, dealing with the press, dealing with the travel schedule, and then running a national campaign and fighting for delegates bit by bit, trench by trench at state conventions and elsewhere.
Now, why is the Stu guy, Manafort, so valuable?
Manafort has Trump's respect. He knows a good number of Trump's good friends. They have a previous relationship. And Paul Manafort ran the 1996 Republican National Convention in my hometown of San Diego. He has been in presidential campaigns. He has been within inner circles of people who have won and run for the presidency, not always winning, but sometimes winning. And what that brings is a sense of calm about the game. Professional athletes often talk about success being when you can slow the game down. What you have to do in a presidential campaign sometimes is slow the campaign down and have the kind of confidence that someone like Manafort, who's been through it before, who knows the rhythms, can not only dictate to the candidate, but also dictate to those people who have to make a lot of things happen on a delegated basis. That's the other thing that's so crucial in a successful presidential campaign. You have to trust people, delegate, turn your back and let them do their job. That is not a core strength of Corey Lewandowski.
Good point that you made. Let's go and talk about the new delegate numbers out, the numbers that are out. What do they tell us about the likelihood of a contested convention?
Wisconsin was a setback for Trump, no question about it. If you look at most of the projections that imagined Trump getting to Cleveland with a magic number of 1237, many, if not all, suggested Trump needed to get at least 20 delegates, if not more, out of Wisconsin. He got 6. That means you got to make up 14 someplace else. Not every one of the states is going to provide an extra 14. So what Trump has to do is maximize. In New York, he's got to run up the score. Pennsylvania, he's got to run up the score. Later on in April, the same day that Pennsylvania votes, Maryland votes, Rhode Island, Connecticut. He's got to run up the score in the Northeast, close to his home base, and then fight through May and into June and gather as many delegates as possible. But even if Trump falls short, and this was another part of the conversation in Trump world today, they will say, look, if we're 100 or 200 delegates short, the votes of the people ought to dictate the outcome of the convention, whatever the delegate math is. Because if the Trump people argue, if you turn your back on the people who voted in these primaries and caucuses, and Trump's won most of them, they will argue, then you're going to split the party, they'll leave the convention, and you'll go into a general election not only divided, but possibly permanently divided.
Talk about a mess there. Let's go and talk about Cruz now. He has a lot of ground to make up here in New York. He's already criticized New York values. He was supposed to speak at a high school in the Bronx. That's until it was canceled after students said that they would walk out. Will he be able to make up some ground here and sort of like do well in New York, or does he have his job cut out for him?
Let's cut to the chase. Cruz can make up some ground, but he's not going to win New York. There is no chance. And his campaign does not make a credible argument that it will win New York. This is Trump's home turf, and it doesn't lay well for Cruz. The best hope he has is to get some votes in key congressional districts and walk away with some of the delegates that are allotted by plurality vote per congressional district. That's the best hope for Cruz. So what you're going to watch for in New York, where does Cruz travel? Because every place he goes will indicate he thinks he can get some votes and a couple of delegates there, and then he's going to move on.
All right, you're the expert. Always good to talk to you too, Major. Thank you.
One last thing before we go. Mom, Hello.
My mom is his biggest fan. She's
mom.
always, Major, where is Major? Thank you, man. I appreciate that.
Man.
She's watching too. Thank you. Always good to talk to you.